Yeah, that thumbnail is misleading. Will Levis eventually got drafted, but I wanted to use it. At the end of April, Roger Goodell and a host of other individuals announced the names of 259 people who had just been drafted into the NFL. Over the decades, tens of thousands of other individuals have had their names called in the NFL draft. Many have never played it down. Many were in the league, but not for too long. Many were very good players with long careers. And many had Hall of Fame careers. But what of those who never had their names called? All of this applies to them as well. So for those who the NFL initially snubbed its nose at, we are here today to build an all-time NFL roster made completely of players who went undrafted. Kinda. We're only going back to 1967, which was the first year of the NFL-AFL Common Draft, ending all competition between various leagues when it came to drafting. This actually goes all the way back to the AAFC. They did not even hold a draft in their first season of 1946, but one of its teams, the Cleveland Browns, were able to directly sign Frank Gatsky, Lou Groza, Marion Motley, and Bill Willis, all of whom became Hall of Famers. Officially speaking, they are considered undrafted. So in order to keep things more simple, we went back to what is the beginning of the NFL draft as we know it today. Anyone taken in a supplemental draft, such as Steve Young, is considered a drafted player. We built a 53-man roster, 11 starters on defense, 11 on offense, a kicker, a punter, and 29 reserves. We didn't consider special teams abilities or the specificity of playing left or right tackle, for example. We just wanted to take the best players we could. Before we dive all the way in, I did want to take a moment to thank you for clicking on this video and for getting as far as you have already. We ask that you continue to watch all the way through, but in the meantime, please take a quick moment to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell as well. We got a lot of great videos on this channel, sports related, entertainment related as well. If you'd like to go ahead and hit the like button and share the video now, that would be great. If you want to watch the video first, that would be great as well. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and begin by revealing our starting offense. Now, for the vast majority of the years in question, the base offense has been 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end, of course, to go with the quarterback and the O-line. That's not as common anymore today, but we're going to stick with that as our base offense for this roster. First, our starting backfield. Our starting quarterback is Kurt Warner, who had a glittering career and potentially an even better personal story. 2-time league MVP, a Super Bowl champion, a Super Bowl MVP, 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first team All-Pro, and a Hall of Famer. Our first starting running back is Priest Holmes, a Super Bowl champion, over 10,000 yards of offense, 94 touchdowns, 3-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first team All-Pro. Our second starting running back is Arian Foster, put together nearly 9,000 total yards, 68 touchdowns, a 4-time Pro Bowler, and a first team All-Pro. Now we're going to take a look at our pass catching crew, which includes our 2 wide receivers and our tight end. Our first wide receiver is Drew Pearson, nearly 8,000 receiving yards and 48 touchdowns in a less pass-happy era, a Super Bowl champion, a 3-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first team All-Pro, and a Hall of Famer. Our second starting wide receiver is Rod Smith, 11,389 receiving yards, 68 touchdowns, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, and a 3-time Pro Bowler. Perhaps our easiest selection on the board here is a starting tight end, Antonio Gates, nearly 12,000 receiving yards, 116 receiving touchdowns, an 8-time Pro Bowler, a 3-time first team All-Pro, and once he's eligible, will be a Hall of Famer. With our skill position players out of the way, we're now going to take a look at the guys who are going to protect them, the offensive line. Our starting center, and there were a lot to choose from, the NFL doesn't really like drafting centers, is Jeff Saturday. He played in 211 games, a Super Bowl champion, a 6-time Pro Bowler, and a 2-time first-team All-Pro. Our starting guards, first Nate Newton, 198 games played, a 3-time Super Bowl champion, 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro. Our second guard is Larry Little, 183 games played, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, a member of an undefeated team, 5-time Pro Bowler, 5-time first-team All-Pro, and a Hall of Famer. Our starting tackles, first is Jason Peters, 238 games played, and he may add to that number. He's not quite retired yet. A Super Bowl champion, a 9-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time first-team All-Pro, a likely future Hall of Famer. And our second starting tackle, a member of the famed Hogs, Joe Jacoby, 170 games played, a 3-time Super Bowl champion, 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro. This now is our completed starting lineup for our offense. We're now going to take a look at our starting defense. We're going to run out a base 4-3, again, not as common today. Most teams play in the nickel, but over the years, the 4-3 has been most common. We're going to start off with our defensive line. First up at defensive end is Corey Bacon. Bacon retired in 1981, so sacks weren't an official statistic, but it's estimated that he had 130.5 of them. Forced 15 fumbles as well and was a 3-time Pro Bowler. On the other side of the line is Cameron Wake, played many years in the CFL. Once he joined the NFL, he was able to tally up 100.5 sacks, forced 22 fumbles, was a 5-time Pro Bowler, and a 1-time first-team All-Pro. On the inside, a D-tackle, another extremely easy selection, John Randall. 137.5 sacks from the interior D-line, 29 forced fumbles, 7-time Pro Bowler, a 6-time first-team All-Pro, and a Hall of Famer. And next to him will be Joe Nash, played 218 games, only picked up 47.5 sacks, but was much more well known as a run stopper. He did make a Pro Bowl and a first-team All-Pro team. That's the defensive line. Now we're going to take a look at the gentlemen patrolling behind them, our starting linebackers. On the outside, first we have James Harrison. Now Harrison was much more well known as a 3-4 outside linebacker, but he fits the bill in this exercise as well. He had 84.5 sacks, 34 forced fumbles, was a Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time Super Bowl champion, 5-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time first-team All-Pro, and has an excellent case for the Hall of Fame. On the other side of him is Rufus Porter. He had 135 career games, made 41 sacks, 523 tackles, and was a 2-time Pro Bowler. In the middle is Sam Mills, the field mouse. Almost 1,300 career tackles, 22 forced fumbles, and 23 recovered fumbles. 5-time Pro Bowler, a first-team All-Pro, and a Hall of Famer. Behind our front seven will be a secondary made up of 2 cornerbacks and 2 safeties. Our first starting cornerback is Everson Walls. Played 186 games and made 57 interceptions. He was a Super Bowl champion, a 4-time Pro Bowler, and an AP All-Pro 1 time. Next up is Chris Harris, who hasn't officially retired. Played 172 games, has made 22 interceptions, best known as a shutdown corner, a Super Bowl champion, a 4-time Pro Bowler, a first-team All-Pro. At safety, first we have Cliff Harris. Played 141 games, made 29 interceptions, recovered 18 fumbles, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro, and a Hall of Famer. And next to him is Donnie Shell, who played 201 games, picked off 51 passes, recovered 19 fumbles, a 4-time Super Bowl champion as a member of the vaunted Steel Curtain defense, a 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro, and a Hall of Famer. That's quite the starting defense if we don't say so ourselves. Now we're going to run through the rest of the team. We're going to let you know who our kicker and our punter is, and all of our backup players to make up the full 53-man roster. Justin Tucker would make this team if it included drafted kickers as well. He is the best kicker of all time. He is still active, beginning his career in 2012. He's made over 90% of his field goals, a 6-time Pro Bowler, a 5-time first-team All-Pro, a Super Bowl champion, and holds the record for the longest kick ever made. At punter, we have Rich Camarillo, 215 career games, 42.7 average with a 36.1 net, a 5-time Pro Bowler, and a 1-time first-team All-Pro. Our 2 backup quarterbacks, you may quibble with the order of this, but I have Tony Romo as the backup, a 4-time Pro Bowler, Warren Moon at 3rd string, a 9-time Pro Bowler, and a Hall of Famer. At running back, we have the still active Austin Eckler, who may one day play himself into a starter, over 7,000 yards of offense and over 60 touchdowns. We have Willie Parker, 5,378 rushing yards, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler. And we have Kimball Anders, who can play the role of fullback as well, over 5,000 yards of offense and a 3-time Pro Bowler. Our backup wide receivers start with Wes Welker, almost 10,000 receiving yards, 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro and could play the slot when we go 3 wide. The still active Adam Thielen, pushing 7,000 yards receiving in his career, 2-time Pro Bowler. And Alfred Jenkins, over 6,000 yards receiving in a less pass-happy era, 2-time Pro Bowler, and a first-team All-Pro. And our backup tight ends, we have Paul Coughlin, who played in the late 70s throughout the 80s, 4,340 receiving yards, a 3-time Pro Bowler, and Alvin Reed, who played in the 60s and early 70s, almost 3,000 receiving yards, and a 2-time Pro Bowler. Now for the offensive line, in the interior, we have center Jim Langer, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, member of the undefeated Miami Dolphins, 3-time first-team All-Pro, and a Hall of Famer. At guard is Brian Waters, played 186 games, 6 Pro Bowls, 2-time first-team All-Pro. And Woody Peoples, played 168 games, and was a 2-time Pro Bowler. Our backup tackles are both multiple-time Super Bowl champions. Tony Jones won 2 of them while making a Pro Bowl. Mark Tuinei won 3 of them while making 2 Pro Bowls. Now on the defensive line. At defensive end, we have Adewale Ogunleye, 67 career sacks, recovered and forced 14 fumbles, made a Pro Bowl. Michael Bennett, a Super Bowl champion, 3-time Pro Bowler, almost 70 sacks. And we have Otis Sistrunk, who has an asterisk next to his name because he can play a D tackle as well, estimated to have 53 sacks in his career while winning a Super Bowl. Our 2 backup defensive tackles each played exactly 200 games in their careers. Pat Williams recorded 20.5 sacks while stuffing the run, 3-time Pro Bowler, and Greg Cragen, who had 28.5 sacks, recovered 16 fumbles, and made a Pro Bowl. At outside linebacker, we have the controversial yet talented Vontaze Burfict, over 600 career tackles while making a Pro Bowl, and Bob Swenson, a coverage linebacker with 11 interceptions, 9 fumble recoveries, Pro Bowler, and a first-team All-Pro. We are certainly stacked at backup middle linebacker. We have London Fletcher, over 2,000 career tackles, Super Bowl champion, 4-time Pro Bowler, and Jesse Tuggle, over 1,800 career tackles, 5-time Pro Bowler. We start with our backup secondary. At cornerback, we have Roland Lawrence, 39 career interceptions, a Pro Bowler with a first-team All-Pro appearance. Robert James, a shorter career, but was able to make the Pro Bowl 3 times and make first-team All-Pro twice. And Brent Grimes, a great tackler at corner with 573 to go with 33 picks and a 4-time Pro Bowler. At safety, we have Eugene Robinson, perhaps more famous for his incident at Super Bowl 33, but 57 interceptions, 22 fumble recoveries, a Super Bowl champion. And Deron Sherry, 50 career interceptions, a 6-time Pro Bowler, a 3-time first-team All-Pro. Here now is the entire 53-man roster. Clearly you're going to know a lot of these guys. Hopefully you're at least somewhat familiar with all of them. If there's some guys you're not all that familiar with, or maybe have never heard of, do yourself a favor and check them out. All these guys had or are having great careers, and we didn't exactly get super deep into their bios. In looking at this team, is there anyone who doesn't belong? Is there someone I left off? Sound off in the comments below and let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, please smash that like button, share it with a friend, and if you could please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications, and check out the other videos we have available. Thank you so very much and have an awesome day.